Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat and welcome to the third installment for the webinar series of DOST-FNRI Nutrition Tools. So before we start, let me read a few reminders for this webinar. Reminder, please change your name to this format, company_name, for example, DOST-FNRI_1. So to rename, in the participant list on the right side of the Zoom window, hover over your name and click on the rename button. Please keep your microphones on mute during discussion. Questions are most welcome. We will have an open forum at the end of the discussion, so you may key in your questions at the chat box. Certificates will only be given to Zoom attendees who have successfully answered the pre-test, post-test, and evaluation forms. For better viewing, please click the speaker view format in the upper right portion of the Zoom. So dito po nakikita nyo sa ating illustration. Ensure a stable internet connection. If disconnected, just wait for the Zoom window to resume. Please provide your PRC ID number and PRC expiration date in the iTrain account. Please also edit your name in the account and note that the name you entered in the account will be reflected in your certificates. Before the webinar ends, the attendance sheet link will be provided in the chat box, Zoom chat box, and please accomplish the attendance sheet and provide the email address you used in the FNRI or iTrain registration. Note that if you fail to provide the correct email address, the system will not be able to process your certificate. So once again, please provide the email address you used in registration of the IFNRI or iTrain account. Okay, please log into your iTrain account at 1 p.m. onwards and answer the post-test and feedback form. So you may click in the profile button to answer. And after you answer the post-test and evaluation, you can now download your certificates. So to watch the webinar, you can log into your iTrain account. So go to the profile button and click the join webinar button. So for this webinar, you can also watch via YouTube channel of the DOST-FNRI. Just make sure that you answered the attendance sheet to be provided at the chat box. Link So let's begin this webinar with a prayer to be led by Mr. Victor Alfonso, Science Research Specialist 1 from the Food and Nutrition Training Team.
Oh, yes. Let us bow our heads and remember we are in the holy presence of the Lord. Uh, Dear God, thank you for all the blessings you have bestowed upon us. We are truly grateful for them. Thank you for allowing us today to meet and share our knowledge and time with one another in this webinar on the new food exchange list. May you extend your divine wisdom to our speaker so that she would be able to impart effectively her God-given knowledge to all of us. May she be blessed as she continues to bring her expertise to people who need them. Bless the participants as well as so that they would be able to learn and understand the vital information from this activity. May you bestow your blessing after the webinar so that we may go and spread what we have learned in the spirit of your love and generosity. May we realize that this webinar glorify your name. Amen.
Thank you, Sir VJ, for the inspiring prayer. The DOST-FNRI fulfills its third mandate, which is to diffuse food and nutrition research findings and recommendations. One way to do this is by conducting webinars and virtual trainings. The COVID-19 pandemic truly limits us in our face-to-face activities, but it also gave many possibilities for online learning. For example, for this webinar, we have participants from all over the country, from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, and it enables us to reach more participants. Currently, we have participants from South Cotabato, Zambales, Daet Camarines Norte, Pagadian City, Davao City, Batangas, Calibo Aklan, Valenzuela City, Pampanga, Laguna, Quezon City, Catbalogan, Samar, Antipolo, Malabon, Tacloban, South Cotabato, Palawan, Zamboanga del Sur, Apayao Province, and Leyte. We also have students who wish to listen to the webinar on the of the new food exchange list. Um, uh, so we are 292 participants here in our Zoom platform, and we also is live via the DOST-FNRI YouTube channel. So for this webinar, no, it is our task to ensure that these tools are useful to our R&Ds. Thus, we have one CPD unit. The PRC gave us one CPD unit for this webinar. And also important po na ang ilalagay nating email to our attendance sheet is valid and is correct for us to be able to get the certificate. So once again, later we will be posting the attendance sheet link after our webinar in the chat box, and please provide us the correct email address for you to be able to get the certificate and also the one CPD unit for our R&Ds. Okay, so thus to start this discussion in nutrition tools, particularly on the new food exchange list, let me introduce our speaker. Our speaker is a registered nutritionist dietitian, had her Bachelor of Science in Nutrition at the University of the Santo Tomas, had her MS in Public Health Nutrition at the University of the Philippines, Manila. She is involved in research studies on development of nutrition tools, nutrition, and physical activity. Currently, she is a science research specialist too of the Nutrition Research and Development Group of DOST-FNRI. Let us all welcome and let us give her a round of applause to Ms. Noeline C. Santos. Good morning po, Ms. Noel.
Good morning to everyone. Thank you for attending the FTL webinar. And I hope you will get a lot of new information in this webinar. So before we start, so we will be talking about what's new in the fourth edition food exchange list. So I'll be presenting to you the summary of the macronutrient compositions, the added food items, deleted food items, and transferred food items. So I hope that you'll be able to get something from this webinar. So let's start. So just a brief background for the food exchange list. So it was created to make calorie counting easier for diabetic patients during meal planning by simplifying the estimation of carbohydrate, protein, and fat through the use of exchanges in each food list. This was the main objective of the FEL before, but now the FEL is used for both normal and therapeutic patients. Now, the concept behind the FEL is the exchange system, which is created to group together food items containing approximately the same energy and macronutrient contents. So just a quick run through on the development process of the fourth edition FEL. So first, we started with needs assessment by doing survey, focus group discussions, and consultation with the core of group experts, followed by energy, carbohydrate, protein, and fat computation, which we use the latest version of the food exchange list and other FCTs. This was followed by portion size weighing and measurements. So we use actual food items and weighed it using a digital scale, as well as use of conventional tools like ruler and other measuring equipment. And then the last stage is the development of the prototype, which now leads to the latest edition of the food exchange list. So here, you can see on your screens the summary of macronutrient composition of FEL. So the major changes, as you can see, is that here we no longer have the vegetables A and B. And then for the rice group, we have now three classifications: the rice A, which is the low protein, the rice B, which is the medium protein, and the rice C, which is the high protein. The rest are there are no changes for the rest of the food groups. So I'll be referring to CP as carbohydrate, protein, and fat. So we also have other food lists available. First off is the selected food list, which contains commonly consumed new food, which contains commonly consumed or new food items in the list, but cannot be classified in the 7 food lists presented as appendices. Next is the beverage list, which contains mostly processed beverages, followed by the free food list, which are any food or drink that contains a few calories or less than 16 calories per serving. We also have the alcoholic beverages, which is presented in their usual serving portion. So the discussion will be in this flow. So we will start with the macronutrient composition per food group, followed by the added food items, the deleted food items, and the transferred food items. For the first food group, the vegetable exchange list, as you can see, there is no longer a vegetable A and B subclassification, but we have retained the fresh and processed food exchange group. So we still have the same macronutrient composition of 3 grams carbohydrate and 1 gram protein, which is equivalent to 16 calories. So what happened to the other vegetables? So the vegetables containing less than 16 calories per exchange are now excluded in the vegetable exchange list, but a list of these vegetables was provided for information in a separate table, although it is still under the vegetable list. So we also added the following food items: vegetable that contains 16 calories per exchange are the following. So these are the additional food items. So we have the frozen green peas, the frozen mixed vegetables, broccoli, artichoke, yacon, as well as kale. For the deleted food items, which is mostly vegetables commonly used as garnish, we have excluded this because we usually do not consume a large amount of these food items. So examples of the deleted food items are coriander or unsoy, garlic leaves, pepper leaves, and celery. Now, the second food group is the fruit exchange list. So as you can see, there are no change in macronutrient composition, and we still retain the 10 grams carbohydrate, which is equivalent to 40 calories, so per exchange. The added food items for the fresh fruits are the different varieties of selected fruits. We also have included more imported fruits available in the market, more local fruits, and more fresh fruit juices. Now, for the processed or canned fruits, we also added blueberry in heavy syrup, frozen strawberry, and lychee in syrup. As you can see here, the banana Q, turon, and maruya are no longer part of the fruit exchange list. They are now transferred to the selected food list due to adjustment in weight to reflect usual serving portion. Also, some of the beverages under the fruit exchange list are now transferred to the beverage list. So in the beverage list, the items included here are all processed beverages. So now you will find here the sweetened and unsweetened fruit juices. The next list is the milk exchange list. So there are no change in macronutrient composition, and we still have the three sub classification: the whole milk, the low-fat milk, and the skim or non-fat or fat-free milk. So wala pong change dun sa composition niya. For the added food items, we now have the powdered filled milk, the goat's milk, and the plain low-fat yogurt. Now, some changes can be observed in a measurement. So previously, the old measurement of powdered milk is 4 tablespoons. Now the new measurement is 5 tablespoons. For the Carabao's milk, the old measurement is 250 grams. In the new food exchange list, it's reduced to 200 grams. The next exchange list is the rice exchange list, which is the most commonly used part of the FEL. So as you can see here, we now have 3 sub-classification. The rice A, or the low protein, which contains the low protein food items and has a composition of 23 grams carbohydrate and almost low protein and fat, which is equivalent to 92 calories. The rice B, which contains the medium protein, which is this is the original version part of the FEL before, so we still retain the 23 grams carbohydrate as well as the 2 grams protein, which is equivalent to 100 calories. And now we have the rice C, or the high protein, which has an additional of 2 grams protein with a final calorie count of 108 calories. So the rationale behind the changes for this food group is that most food items in the rice list are staple food items, which are consumed in larger quantities compared to other food items. So with this, we need to reclassify in order to minimize under and overestimation of protein in the diet. So just a quick run through. So in the rice A list, this contains mostly noodles and root crops and contains negligible amounts of protein. For the rice B, the food items here are mostly rice, cereal, and cereal products with approximately 2 grams of protein. For rice C, it contains mostly breads and bakery products with 4 grams of protein. So here you can see the added food items. For the rice A, we have protein-reduced rice, maha blanca, sweet potato noodles, which is usually used in Korean cuisine, morado and yellow kamote, kamoting kahoy or linupak, ichi-pichi made of kamoting kahoy, bolsaba banana, and tapioca sago. For rice B, we have brown rice, red rice, bibingka, pinipig, brown puto, suman, morwecos, painyog, morado, huapaw, toasted bread, corn grits, mais sabusal na puti, and plantains. And lastly, for rice C, we have the following additional items: pinagong, white and whole wheat pita bread, couscous, udon, balat ng lumpia, buto ng langka, and quinoa. So why are the food items with brand names not included? So most of the food items in the old exchange list are no longer available in the market. Thus, the group decided to remove it in the new FEL. So for the transferred food items, we have the following. So the regular ice cream and rice or corn kernels are no longer part of the rice exchange list. They are now transferred to the selected food list due to change in macronutrient content. And then for the next exchange list, the meat exchange list, we have no change in macronutrient composition and still retain the three sub-classification in the meat exchange group. So we still have the low-fat meat, the medium-fat, and high-fat meat with varying fat content. So for the low-fat, it's still 1. For the medium-fat, it's still 6. And for the high-fat, it's still 10. So the additional food items for this group is that we have the duck, cara beef, chevon, and frog for the meat and selected parts. We have various additional fishes like alumahan and saramolete. And then we also added additional kinds of shellfishes like batotoy, diwal, and kukol ginto. Now we have expanded also the list of cheeses in this food group. So we now have here the feta, gouda, parmesan, and queso de bola. So for the common street foods are also included here in the meat exchange list. You can find here the chicken head barbecue, the chicken feet, and the one-day-old chick. Now for tunsoy tuyo, this was excluded in the current list because the energy and macronutrient composition are no longer available in the Philippine FCT. Now, some food items are transferred to another list, so to a different subgroup. So before, the chicken leg was considered as low fat, but now it is considered as medium fat with higher weight in grams. So previously 30 grams yung weight ng chicken, ngayon 35 grams na po siya. Now, the same goes for tinapang bangus, which is considered a low-fat meat item. It is now in the medium fat, but still has the same weight. Another example is the canned salmon, which was considered a low-fat food item, but now it is transferred to the medium fat subgroup at 45 grams per exchange. So other additional transferred items are the tocino, pigeon, various beans like pigeon pea seeds, and which is seeds dried, Vienna sausage, susong pilipit, pigeon pea seeds, and nahalaan. So these food items are transferred to the selected food list due to updates in the macronutrient content. The last major exchange list is the fat exchange list. So here you can see that there are no changes in the macronutrient composition. So we still have per exchange 5 grams of fat with a total of 45 calories. But we still retain the classification of saturated, mono, and polyunsaturated fats. Added food items in the fat exchange list are beef tallow, sour cream, whipped cream, half and half cream fluid, and others like MCT oil, palm oil, lard, and salad dressings. We also have various nuts like cashew nuts, squash seeds, watermelon seeds, and walnut, macadamia nuts, pop bean, sesame seeds, and flax seeds. Sorry. So the last food exchange list is the sugar, or the seventh list. So sugar is still the same. There are no changes in the macronutrient composition. We still have 5 grams per exchange of carbohydrate with a total of 20 calories. So the added food items here are the assorted carrageenan gel, or commonly called jelly A's here in the Philippines. And we also added cocoa syrup, locum, dulce de leche, dried fruits, kiamoy, and leche flan. Now, for the condensed milk, the previous measurement is 2 teaspoons at 10 grams. Now, in the new FEL, we have the new exchange is 1 teaspoon with a total of 5 grams. Also, the yema, before there were still available small versions of the yema, but due to change in time, hindi na po acceptable yung 5 grams na 1 exchange na yema. So the new measurement of yema is at 25 grams, which is equivalent to 4 exchanges. So the halo-halo was previously included in the FEL, but the group has decided to remove it in the sugar exchange list, since in practice, R&Ds would usually break down the ingredients of the halo-halo, and that there is no standard recipe available for this food item. Now, we will also run through the various food items, part of the different additional lists in the FEL. So starting with the beverage list, the added food items are various flavored cereal drink, sports drink, flavored water, plain and chocolate soy milk, almond milk, rice milk, 3-in-1 coffee, and instant milk tea in powdered form. For the selected food list, we have the following additional food items. So classic granola, muesli cereal, mashed potato, mozzarella cheese, chicken luncheon meat, mixed nuts, and meat and seafood dumplings in fried and steamed version. Now, I'll be showing to you a short video on the sample computation on how to use the food exchange list. Can you hear the audio? Sorry.
Oh, ma'am.
Miss Noel, na-audio po.
Hold on.
Allocate the number using the sample format and diet prescription of 1,500 calories, 245 grams carbohydrate, 55 grams protein, and 35 grams fat. First, allocate the number of exchanges for all food furnishing carbohydrates, starting with vegetables, fruit, milk, and sugar, and compute its equivalent energy and macronutrient content. Second, determine the rice exchanges by subtracting the prescribed carbohydrate with the carbohydrate partial sum from the first 4 food lists. Divide the difference by 23 grams, which will result to the number of rice exchanges. Third, determine the meat exchanges by subtracting the prescribed protein with the protein partial sum from the first 5 food lists. Divide the difference by 8 grams, which will result to the number of meat exchanges. Fourth, determine the fat exchange by following the same steps in deriving the allowances for carbohydrate and protein. Use 5 as the divisor since one fat exchange contains 5 grams of fat. Distribute the exchange units into breakfast, lunch, supper, and snacks, depending on the individual's eating habits. Are you ready to prepare a meal plan?
So that is the short video on how to calculate the food exchange list. It's still the same like what's taught in school. However, meron lang pong changes to sa mga subgroups natin. So as mentioned, wala na pong vegetable A and vegetable B. Isa na lang po yung vegetable, isang list na lang po yung part ng vegetable list. And mostly considered po doon yung vegetable food items with at least 16 calories per exchange. And also some adjustments in the computation for the rice exchange list. We need to allocate food items. We need to allocate for the rice A, rice B, or rice C when computing the diet. Now, we also have additional other information or other FEL resources are also available here at IFNRI through the Help Online website. So I'll just give you a run through of what you can also see in or download in this website related to FEL. So once you're registered in the IFNRI, you will please go to the Help Online website and then just click the FEL button. So here you can see the various information that was also presented and also available in the textbooks. So we have here the macronutrient exchanges, the calculated diets for quick reference, as well as sample computation and distribution of the FEL, which was also presented to you earlier. And also we have here the FEL visual guide where you can see the various images of per exchange of select food items. And the video that was also presented earlier. So in this video, you'll be able to see the history, the development process, and as well as until the computation of the FEL. So with this, I'm ending my presentation. So for the usual question, like where to buy FEL, so it is available at DOST-FNRI at 400 pesos. For inquiries, please email Ms. Hazel Lat at lat.hazel@gmail.com. So thank you very much, and I hope you were able to get something for in this presentation. So, Ms. Celine?
And thank you po, Ms. Noel, for the presentation po ng new FEL. So let us give her a round of applause, please. So now let's go on to the open forum or the question and answer. So you may key in your questions po sa ating chat box for our resource speaker po to answer these questions. Yeah, so more on how to avail the FCT or FEL po natin. No questions here.
So
okay, so ito po, may quick questions from Sir Dave Clark Sison. The serving sizes of the food items in the new FEL, can we take this as a representation of reference amounts customarily consumed or RACs? Thank you.
So we have no available standard amounts or reference portions. So pwede po kasing mas maliit yung exchange ng FEL. So hindi ko po masyado ma-recommend ito na po yung magiging standard na reference, but you can cite it po if there is no available material.
Okay, thank you po, Ms. Noel. We hope Ms. Noel answered your question po, Sir Dave. Next question po is, how many food items were added to the new FEL po?
So there are more than 500 food items added in the new food items, sorry. So there's about a total of more than 100 food items added in the new FEL, and I think the list contains more than 500 food items in it.
Okay, thank you po, Ms. Noel. So another question, did you include Adelaide po in the new FEL?
Adelaide is not yet available during the time of development. So I mean, there's no available FCT values. So hindi pa po siya nasama sa FEL.
Okay, so now another question po, which rice subgroup is brown rice classified?
So brown rice is classified under the rice B subgroup together with the white rice.
Okay, another question po, why did you decided to have 3 subgroups for our rice exchanges?
So as mentioned earlier, in order to properly estimate the protein requirement, the group decided to to create 3 sub-classifications since the range is too big. So kasi kung isang sub-classification lang, ang range ng protein niya is from 0 to 4 grams. So in the previous exchange list, we only nasa gitna lang siya, which is 2. But since we want to be more careful on prescribing diets, kaya ginawang 3 subgroup siya. So to account for food items with at least minimal amounts of protein or almost none, and then the medium protein, which is 2 grams, and the food items with high protein, which contains 4 grams per exchange.
Okay, thank you po, Ms. Noel, for that answer. Next question po, regarding po sa tuyo. You said it was deleted since it's not available in the FCP. So how do we compute for it?
Some food you can refer to, it's actually just one tuyo item, which is the tunsoy, I believe. You can just use the same classification for other food items. But we are still checking with the FCT group if there is a new available analyzed composition for this food item.
Okay, so another question po, can we still add a midnight snack when preparing for a diet for clients?
Yes, of course. You can definitely add a midnight snack. So since when computing, we usually personalize it to the patient or the client. So it depends on you whether you distribute the food items in just 5 meals or 6 meals.
Okay, so next is parehong may saging na saba ang fruit and rice exchange. Ano po ang dapat gamitin?
So in the fruit exchange, it is the fresh saba. While for the rice exchange, it is the boiled saba. So based from the macronutrient composition or the FCT, boiling changes some of the macronutrient composition of the saba. Thus, the boiled saba is under the rice exchange, while the fresh saba is under the fruit exchange. Also, please note the quantity, which is also stipulated in the FEL.
Okay, so next question po, how how about po yung REL natin? Is it available na po?
So the REL is being finalized. Hopefully it will be available by the end of the year. Yun po.
Ayan. So let's wait for the REL po, no? Next one is what to do in case wala po sa FEL yung food item na we want to assess.
So if the food item is not available in the FEL, please do check the food composition tables. We have the local version, if not the other foreign FCTs. So you can use the macronutrient composition to check to estimate which food group you can use. You can place the food item po.
Yeah, so we can use the FCT po if wala po tayong food item dun sa FEL. So again, another question po regarding the walnuts. So why was it included in the fat food po? It has protein and carb content.
Yes, walnuts is included in the fat exchange list because based on the exchange, the measured exchange, mataas po yung fat content niya, although it is a monounsaturated fat. But yun.
Okay, so next one po about the rices natin, the red rice and the black rice. Saan po ba siya kasama na group?
So the red, for the, let me get back to you on this part, but I believe these food items are also included in the list, I think in the selected list.
Okay, so Ms. Noel will get back to us po regarding the red rice and the black rice. And next question po, how do we compute the exchanges for vegetables that are less than 16 kilocalories?
So actually, we encourage more vegetable intake. So as you can see, vegetables like the lettuce and those watery vegetables like the cucumber are not included in the are part of the list with na hindi part ng may 16 calories because these food items even if more than 1 cup yung kainin niyo po, hindi pa rin siya magre-reach ng 16 calories. So kaya nire-recommend kaya okay lang po na na hindi masyadong malaki yung mako-contribute niyang calorie dun sa total calorie intake po ng person. So yun po yung nakita namin. Yung mga food items na to, even if you consume about 1 or 2 cups, hindi pa rin po siya abot ng 16 calories.
Okay, so we hope na clarify po tayo doon sa ating vegetable exchanges. Next question, with the new FEL available, does it mean na yung values in the old FEL should not be used anymore?
The new FEL, the macronutrient composition, mostly majority is retained, but the food items were reanalyzed by the FCT group. So meron pong possible changes sa weight po ng mga food items sa new FEL unlike dun sa old FEL po.
Okay, so there are changes po. So mas maganda siguro na gamitin natin yung bago po nating food exchange list because it's also available naman na po for use. Okay, so next one is for clarification lang po. Dun sa computation ng vegetable, does it mean na there will be no longer subgroup A and B and each exchange of vegetable is equivalent to 16 kilocalories?
So yes, there's no longer a need to group items for vegetable A and B. And yes, we only account now the vegetables with at least 16 calories per exchange.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Noel. Next question po, is the new FEL applicable for the upcoming licensure examination for NBs?
I think yes, but maybe you could clarify this with the PRC.
Yes, opo. Kasi PRC po yung gagawa ng exam for the examination. Okay, next one is yung FEL po ba available online? Can you have a copy po ng FEL
No,
online?
the whole book is not available online, but you can download select resources like the visual guide and the videos explaining how to use the FEL. So, but the whole book is we currently only have the printed version.
Yes, so the printed version po is available po dito sa DOST-FNRI. So you can message po or email Miss Hazel po for availing po the FEL. And because you have na po yung account ng IFNRI, through IFNRI, meron po tayo dong Help Online. So you can go on to Help Online po to know more about the new FEL. Okay? So next question will be, how about pork siomai po? Saan po siya naka-classify?
So
Meat exchange po ba?
So pork siomai is classified under the selected food list.
Okay, so nasa bago na po siya, selected food po siya. And then next is additional question from Sir Dave. How about in the case of fruit juice? Can we compare fruit exchange equivalents on fresh versus processed?
So for the fruit, specifically fruit juice, all processed fruit juices included in the beverage list. Meron po doon yung breakdown ng sugar exchange niya. Now, only the fresh fruit juice is included in the fruit exchange list.
Okay, so thank you for that clarification, Ma'am. So another question, are you also planning to make exchange list for fast food restaurants?
For the fast food restaurants, unfortunately, we do not have available nutrient compositions for various fast food restaurants or select restaurants in the Philippines. But you can also refer to the FCTs, foreign FCTs, or maybe you can also inquire dun sa mga fast food chains natin if they have available nutrient composition of the meals they serve.
Okay, so thank you, Ms. Noel. From YouTube naman po, ang question na ito, what is the new values for the skimmed milk before it is traced for fats?
Sorry again.
What is the new values for the skimmed milk before it is traced for fats?
Oh, so for the skim milk, it's still still the same. There were no macronutrient composition changes for the milk group. So skimmed milk is classified under the third subgroup, which is almost zero or trace fat content.
Okay, so we hope na-clarify po ito from our YouTube viewers. So another question po or last question po for the pagkuha or pagbili po ng ating FEL. For us who are not in Taguig and had no chance of going po, especially now that this is time of pandemic, how can we avail of the hard copy of the FEL and FCT? Will you ship it to us through any courier services?
So the shipping is actually carried by the buyer. So you can inquire with Ms. Hazelnut. Usually, once the payment is received, doon po i-arrange yung shipping. So kayo po yung magbo-book nung shipping po, nung libro.
Ayan. So, hope na-clarify po natin to. But we will put po yung email address ni Ma'am Hazel po sa ating chat box for increase and clarification po regarding the pagbili po ng ating new FPL. Okay, so now that ends our open forum portion. So let us give Miss Noel a virtual clap, and I will award the certificate of appreciation. Okay, let me just share my screen. Okay, let us award the certificate of appreciation. Let me read the citation. Republic of the Philippines, Department of Science and Technology present this certificate of appreciation to Ms. Noeline C. Santos for sharing her invaluable knowledge as resource person during the webinar on the new food exchange list held on September 10, 2021 via Zoom. Signed by our director and scientist too, Dr. Imelda Angeles Agbepa. So let us give Ms. Noel again a round of applause. Thank you po, Ms. Noel, for sharing your knowledge and expertise on the new food exchange list.
So thank you very much din po.
So now, before we end this webinar, let me thank you everyone for attending this webinar and using the iTrain website of DOST-FNRI. So the iTrain website was established in 2018 to serve as a platform for the online and offline training services of DOST-FNRI. Thus, we are very happy that from just 20 participants, joining our webinar, we now have hundreds. So with the use of iTrain website, the enrollment and issuance of certificates for the webinar participant is easier. So now we read the following reminders to ensure that you can download your certificate from iTrain website. Okay, once again, please provide the PRC ID number and PRC ID expiration date in the iTrain account. Okay, please edit your name po. Please note that the name you enter in the account will be reflected in your certificate. So certificates are automatically generated by the website. So please edit your name or use the name you want to wish po to reflect in your certificates. So please click the attendance sheet link provided in the Zoom chat box. Please accomplish the attendance sheet and provide the email address you used in the IFNRI iTrain registration. Note, if you fail to provide the correct email address, the system will not be able to process your certificate. So yung attendance sheet link po is only available po today habang bukas po ang ating Zoom. Once na na-end na po ang ating Zoom, wala na pong attendance sheet link. So now, it is posted in our chat box and please accomplish it po right now because once po na matapos na itong ating Zoom, the Zoom link, the attendance link is not be available na po. Okay? So please provide a correct email address po or yung email address na ginamit nyo sa pag-register ng inyong iTrain and IFNRI account. No? And please log in to your iTrain account po at 1 p.m. So again, at 1 p.m. pa po magiging available yung button for answering the post-test and feedback form. So kung pupunta po kayo ngayon sa ating iTrain website, hindi pa po available ang button for answering the post-test and evaluation because yung attendance sheet po na dapat yung sagutan ay ilalagay pa po namin sa website for you to be able to answer the post-test and feedback form. So once na mali po yung email na nailagay nyo sa attendance sheet natin, hindi po mag-a-appear yung button for answering the post-test and evaluation form. So once again, it will be available at 1 p.m. Okay? 1 p.m. pa po available ang ating post-test and evaluation form. So for you to be able to answer the post-test and evaluation form, please ilagay niyo po yung correct email address na ginamit nyo sa pag-register ng iTrain or IFNRI account. Okay? And after answering po the post-test and evaluation at 1 p.m., you can now download your certificate under the profile button. And for those R&Ds na gusto pong makuha yung PRC CPD unit, we hope po na masagutan nyo ang ating post-test and evaluation hanggang 5 p.m. for us to have an ample time po for documentation na isasabit po namin sa PRC. So once again, for those who wish to have the PRC CPD unit, mga NDs po natin, please accomplish po ang ating post-test and evaluation hanggang 5 p.m. today. Okay? So, with that, meron din po kaming beta testing questionnaire link na provided din po sa ating chat box. So, we are asking for your help po to improve the iTrain website. So, you can now answer the beta testing questionnaire posted in the chat box. So, once again, please accomplish with the attendance sheet today. Once na mawala na po ang ating Zoom platform, ay wala na rin po, hindi na din po available ang ating attendance link. Okay. So we thank you for joining us this morning. We hope that you can also attend the next webinars of the DOST-FNRI. So thank you everyone and stay safe.
Hi there! Are you aware that there is an updated version of the Food Exchange List in the Philippines? The Food Exchange List, or FEL, was first introduced by a group of experts in the United States in 1950 for appropriate planning of meals for persons with diabetes. The FEL was later adopted by other countries around the world, including the Philippines. In 1953, the Philippine FEL, partnered after the US FEL, was published. This was updated in 1966 using the 1964 Food Composition Tables, or FCTs. With the growing demand to expand the content and use of the FEL, the Sugar Exchange List was added and calculations were updated using the 1980 FCT in 1994. In 2017, the most awaited revision of the FEL was spearheaded by a group of researchers from DOST-FNRI in collaboration with practicing nutrition professionals and well-known nutrition experts in the country. It started with thorough needs assessment among FEL users, conduct of market survey for novel and emerging food products, and identification of commonly used food items via nationwide food consumption survey data, followed by portion size computation based on predetermined energy and macronutrient values, portion size weighing and measurement of each food item. Pre-production of the prototype book was done with assistance from creative directors. Finally, consultation with expert nutritionists, dietitians, and review by selected users took place prior to presentation to the health community. 4th edition Food Exchange List for meal planning. Now, let us take a look at the updated macronutrient composition of the 7 food exchange lists. Vegetable exchange list contains 3 grams of carbohydrate and 1 gram protein providing a total of about 16 calories per exchange. Only vegetables with energy values of 16 calories per exchange were included in the vegetable exchange list. The rest were placed in separate lists except for vegetable garnishes like coriander, which are commonly not consumed in large amounts. The fruit exchange list contains 10 grams of carbohydrates and 40 calories per exchange. The milk exchange list is still classified into 3 subgroups: whole milk, low-fat milk, and non-fat or skimmed milk. One of the major changes was the regrouping of the rice exchange list into 3 subgroups: rice A, B, C, to properly account the protein values. Rice A, B, and C contains 0, 2, and 4 grams of protein respectively. The classification of the meat exchange list is retained along with the corresponding protein, fat, and energy composition. The same holds true with the fat exchange list. Thus, an exchange of fat contains 5 grams of fat and 45 calories. And the sugar exchange list still contains 5 grams of sugar and 20 calories per exchange. Other commonly consumed and new food and beverage items that cannot be listed in the 7 food exchange list are found in the other food lists found in the appendices. In the updated FEL, carbohydrate, protein, and fat contents of each food item were computed based on the 2016 FCTs. Carbohydrate values of food items used available carbohydrate instead of total carbohydrate because available carbohydrate represent only the carbohydrate available to the human body according to FAO. Users have more choices in meal planning with the addition of over 200 new food items. The use of the new FCTs also resulted to transfer of some food items to either different food group list or subgroup, as well as changes in weights for some food items. The new FEL has become more user-friendly since food items are arranged alphabetically based on their Filipino names with their corresponding English or common names, plus photos of selected food items per exchange, and a lot more. For the sample computation, using the sample format and diet prescription of 1,500 calories, 245 grams carbohydrate, 55 grams protein, and 35 grams fat. First, allocate the number of exchanges for all food furnishing carbohydrates, starting with vegetables, fruit, milk, and sugar, and compute its equivalent energy and macronutrient content. Second, determine the rice exchanges by subtracting the prescribed carbohydrate with the carbohydrate partial sum from the first 4 food lists. Divide the difference by 23 grams, which will result to the number of rice exchanges. Third, determine the meat exchanges by subtracting the prescribed protein with the protein partial sum from the first 5 food lists. Divide the difference by 8 grams, which will result to the number of meat exchanges. Fourth, determine the fat exchange by following the same steps in deriving the allowances for carbohydrate and protein. Use 5 as the divisor since one fat exchange contains 5 grams of fat. Distribute the exchange units into breakfast, lunch, supper, and snacks, depending on the individual's eating habits. Are you ready to prepare a meal plan?